Good evening. I would like to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Thank you for coming. Everyone would please take note of the emergency exits and join me in the pledge.
The pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Keller,
I'm here.
Mr. Jackson,
Excused.
Mrs. Schneider,
Here.
Mrs. Gendron,
Excused.
Mrs. Paradis,
Here.
Mr. Giroux,
Here.
and Mrs. Carey.
Here. Thank you, Mrs. Mack. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to the superintendent for an update.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have had some fun-filled experiences since we were last together. I just want to thank everyone for coming out to the homecoming events and the ribbon cutting ceremony, quite a highlight. I want to mention another highlight that I had over the past couple of weeks. I got to bring the woohoo wagon around middle school, and I have to tell you, it's an amazing experience. If you get a chance to sign up for the woohoo wagon, I would encourage it. I hope your dance moves are a little better than. But I just want to shout out to the woohoo wagon. So a few updates. I wanted to talk about our district-wide safety team meeting, which was Monday, and Mrs. Giller and Mrs. Paradis were in attendance, as were Mayor Keeler, Chief Walden, administrators, and staff and teachers from the district-wide safety team. Some highlights. It was a robust meeting. Chief Walden shared and principals agreed that Handle with Care is going well, allowing us to be proactive in our response. We talked about continued police assistance at our district-wide lockdown drills, as well as police stopping by and walking through the schools, which has been very beneficial. Chief Walden talked about threat response. You know that there have been some neighboring schools with some social media threats. So we talked about the response, what the response would be by the police and schools. And he has a slogan that he borrowed from somewhere that I think we're going to be communicating about: report, don't repost. So if there is something, on social media, to report. PJ updated on the additional cameras that were installed this summer to continue to meet our needs, and he shared quotes with all the principals for some other areas that they've talked about. Tim Murphy, our health and safety coordinator through Capital Region BOCES, shared that fire inspections went well with only a few minor concerns that were corrected immediately. And he also talked about some safety team drills that will occur as part of the building level emergency response teams. We have drills with staff and students, throughout the year. These are specific tabletop drills for the building level teams to work through their roles in various situations. So the buildings then reported all went well with their emergency drills so far. Traffic drop off and pickup have been smooth this year. Chief reported that he had received an additional grant at the beginning of this school year to allow for additional safety patrols around arrival and dismissal time. Buildings have either had or will have their safety committee meetings soon. Elementary principals reported that there have been some additional issues surrounding some custody orders that the police have helped through and report. They had seen an increase in that area this year. So then Laura talked about some additional high school needs. As you know, we have police officers attend our basketball and football games, and with the city sending additional police at certain games when needed. So at sport practices begin to move inside, some additional campus safety monitors will be needed for the after-school shift. Right now, they're trying to work through the 3:30 shift down with our existing safety officers. But Laura feels there's a need for an additional. We are continuously trying to recruit, so we will be staggering some shifts, giving additional hours till we can meet that need. Jeff also reported that the Colonial Council is meeting together with ADs to talk about some league-wide safety. As you know, we did have an incident at a recent game. Chief reported that both individuals who were not Cohoes students or were not from Cohoes as well were arrested. We continue to look at ways to enhance safety at activities. One great new addition is the double fence at the football field, totally enclosed, single point of entry. So that was highlighted as well. Laura, Jeff, Heather, the district BOE safety officer, and I will continue to meet to discuss some other enhancements and then bring them back to the committee, bring them back to the board as requests. Let me see. I'm not using my phone. I left my paper copy at home. Oh, professional development for the 24-25 school year. So during our superintendent's conference day, we're going to have Stop the Bleed training for all staff. That had happened a few years back. This is led by the Cohoes Fire Department, so we appreciate their assistance. The police chief and assistant chief will be presenting at our upcoming faculty meetings. And, you know, we will continue to work with staff to see if there's additional needs. I know that the two of you were at the meeting. Is there anything you'd like to share that I didn't touch upon? Or?
You know, big takeaways, especially for those of us at this table, are to really think about, you know, a lot of us were there when that incident occurred. I felt very safe. The police officers responded immediately. They were right there. There were 2 assigned to the game, but there were 6, I think, that actually were there and were able to deal with that situation so quickly. You know, the thoughts of being proactive rather than reactive is, I feel like, something that we need to start exploring more. You know, the potentials at games for us, you know, having folks who come in who we don't have a relationship with, we have no idea who they are, you know, really drives home the fact that we have to take everything into consideration. And so some of those conversations, without going into detail, are just more thoughtful conversations about the what ifs, even though it hasn't happened now or hasn't happened yet, the what ifs and trying to prepare for that. And that might mean considerations at the budget table, you know, for things for us to think about. We have seen an increase in, you know, student fights, some of them becoming more violent, and we want to make sure, and that's just not us. That's not just us. That's districts around us. So easy enough to talk about that this is not just our problem, but an overall community problem. Having Jeff be a part of, you know, the league conversations and the athletic association conversations to see what other folks are dealing with and or how to make it more streamlined so that there is a similar expectation, you know, whether that means you have to pre-order a ticket so that, you know, there's some sort of identification connecting you. I don't know what that all is going to look like, but those things may be things that come across our table. So I think it's important for us to mention that there's definitely the need and want from the secondary administrators in that respect to be more proactive and think about, you know, things in a way that might be an expense to us now, but maybe benefit us later. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up and make sure that everybody hears the words, because it may come a time when we're having these conversations again. I think it's very smart for us to have some afternoon coverage Those facilities are, you know, locked down as much as they possibly can be. But we all know, you know, the side doors open when it's hot in the gym, and, you know, we kids open the door for people that they don't necessarily know. So just having a face and somebody responsible, that's gonna be there, I feel like would be a great start to that proactive, response.
So if I could just mention, so last year during this time, we did have, start with police at the basketball game, safety officers throughout all the events. The difficult time period is when there's not a game, when there's not an event, but there is still play practice or kids in the building. So that's why additional recruitment, and it might be, if we can't find an additional SSO, then, you know, an additional campus safety monitor, someone to cover. Laura discussed at our dances, backpacks are not allowed. In our code of conduct, you know, it says backpacks will not be allowed. So if around the Colonial Council round table, that message is consistent, then fans or visitors will know, you know, what to expect too. During COVID, we used the ticketing system. So we do have firsthand experiences. We don't want to charge, you know, our students, but it would give identification, and, you know, we might do a small charge for visitors, some things like that. But I agree, you know, and continued conversations, and actually the, as part of the building presentation in a couple weeks, at the end of that, because we will have Laura, Jeff, Heather here, I think that would be a good time to talk to you about, you know, steps that have been taken since.
And I don't want to feel like that conversation is just isolated to secondary. It's just like that's
No.
where I think we need to start, just because that is our largest vulnerability.
And as you know, we did add campus safety monitors to elementary as part of, you know, as part of this discussion. We are going to be talking about looking at the times, because their times currently only cover either morning or, you know, after school. So, you know, some of those types of considerations too, which does mean if we're lengthening times, there are budgetary implications as well.
I mean, Laura made a great point. She was like, I can't even go to Proctor's and not have to walk through some sort of security.
Right.
Where either I have to have a clear bag and or somebody is looking in my bag, you know, to make sure. And I feel like you know, for us to be able to put something in place, which is not discouraging people from participating, because it has been so wonderful this last, you know, week and a half to see so many people from our community, not just kids, not just teachers, not members of the school community, but the community at large, being there to you know, support our kids. And we don't want to discourage any of that from happening. You know, I feel like what we're doing, or the conversation that we're having, is to help make sure that that is a safe environment for everybody. So, you know, I don't in any way want anybody to think that it's to make sure people don't come. It's the opposite. We want to make sure that we can have as many people there as we can, but to keep them safe.
Well, I think an important note is you can't go to any college football game with a backpack. You have to have a small, clear bag. So to think that you can go to a high school game with a backpack and all those things, I mean, the kids that will be going to other sporting events have to get used to that too. So it's not that it's a discriminatory thing that you're doing to the students here. It's a safety issue. The second thing is that, to note, we are not the only district that it is happening to. I mean, one of the teachers was in the meeting and said that every time she shake her football, there's a.
It's bad.
I mean, there's at least one
Yeah.
or two. So that is the other thing, that every district is having to deal with it. And then 3 is the whole thing with the ticketing system, is that we don't have to charge the kids. The kids can get in for free. There are several ticketing systems where the kids aren't charged. And so I mean, that's not even a cost that would, to our students would be. But the other thing is there also should be a way that we can, not to say limit, but you have to have some sort of crowd control and to know how many people you have in that area at any time. And that is also something for safety for any police officer that's going to be there, any fire department, you know, firemen that's going to be coming there or anything, because what if something were to happen? And we don't know the total amount of people that were in that area at that time. So there's many issues to go along with the whole ticketing. It's not to discriminate or distract or to tell people that they can't come and enjoy the events. It's to actually safely hold an event on our property.
So thank you for continuously monitoring all of this and and making adjustments. This safety and security has been a priority for this board for as long as I've been on it. And I know that the budget committee will always stand behind whatever is best for our students and staff to keep them safe.
Thank you.
So like police officers, because like the Friday night of that game was like, I feel very safe here. There's a lot of guys, and I don't know, just like first game under the lights, it's like, was that why there was a lot of, like, can you just ask, or how many usually show up? Two?
Or to assign.
So we,
I didn't
as a district,
Yeah.
so as a district, for the, for all the football games, just like with all the basketball games, we do pay for.
Okay.
That's what I,
Police
not
present.
necessarily.
And so we do that piece because, that way we know if there is an emergency somewhere else,
We have,
those police are with us. I mean, of course, it would depend on the
sure.
nature of the emergency, but also for any event that we think might be either larger or with, a rival or
Yeah.
or something like that. Jeff and Maura always reach out, let the police know that, these are the events that, and then, who doesn't want to come to homecoming and watch football too?
I know, yeah.
But so that's why I'm very thankful for the police.
Yeah.
And
So it's-
Chief Walden also said that, if they didn't have anything going on,
They'll go.
they're allowed to come up and watch
Sure,
games.
which is nice.
It's like we encourage them to.
To like participate and get here when nothing's going
Yeah,
on.
it
instead
it
of-
was nice.
Yeah.
And then if you saw, we had, and Jeff is very strategic. So, he knows which games we need more chaperones, which games to have all of our campus safety. So,
Okay.
So this lends itself, and then it's going to come back to me for a little bit to talk about more committees. But this seemed like a very good time after our safety committee meeting. I know this is a surprise, but to have Rachel talk about some of the other things we're doing and give you an update.
Absolutely.
And she told me to tell you the reason why she's wearing Cornell is, go ahead.
Today was our final day of TCIS for another group that was certified in TCIS. So it was our final testing and training day. So it's a long day. It's a physical day. It's a grueling day for them. They're tested in the LSI.
Therapeutic crisis
Intervention for schools, which we switched to, which I will get to, but if
No heels, no dresses, understood.
no, it must be sneakers, sweats, or jeans, no other
Yes.
attire. And we'll get to that, because that was definitely a part of something that was a goal of mine last year that we have officially followed pretty much to the T, and I'm excited about. But as far as students and student programming, we have Point Break coming up again, October 15th and 17th for all freshmen. Our goal is over 4 years to have the freshmen every year go through it, with the ultimate goal of looking at the data to see how that program has affected all of those, students that will then, after the 4 years, be in the high school together. So that's October 15th and 17th. Heather and Laura are on top of it. They're a great team to work with. We've already strategically planned what staff will be in there, because we do need approximately 7 to 10 staff members in there with the freshman class. We have half each day. I personally was able to be there both of the days last year and saw the program firsthand. And it was, I personally loved it. It was all about empathy, all about relationship building, all about teaching kids they have more in common than you think. Also kind of opening up that relationship with teachers a little bit more. There are some activities where you just kind of step into a circle, and they ask a series of questions. Nothing is too deep or too personal. And people, of course, know if you don't want to step forward, you don't have to. But it really builds that relationship that teachers are human beings too. And that we really do want to relate with and be with our students. I think you heard from 2 students earlier at a board meeting a few weeks ago who really are seeing that, and they're seeing that theme. And I know some staff around here will tell you I beat them over the head with the word relationships, but it really is, you know, what all the educational researchers know and can agree on. That really changes things for kids. So I'm super excited that Point Break is coming back. Again, we've already pretty much got a great plan in place and we're ready to go for October 15th. Stephen Hill will be coming back. We had him in the spring of last year. He came in and spoke to all 9th through 12th grade students in the auditorium. It was the first time we have done all the high school kids at the same time in one assembly since COVID. The students were fantastic. The students were greatly impacted by him. All of you who know me have known I've been trying to bring in a lot of programming, whether it's for parents or students. Some things not attended, some things don't hit quite right. Stephen Hill hit very right with our high school students. So he did presentation in the morning. We were lucky enough to have him through the Albany Citizens Council on Alcoholism last year because of all of the work I did with Hidden Dangers and some other programming. We got him through a grant. This year he is aidable through BOCES, so we are signing a contract to bring him back. He will speak to our 7th through 9th graders. So then all of our kids in the high school have heard him. And then he will spend the afternoon here at the middle school, doing what he did at the high school last year. He went into health classes. He has a reflection sheet the students do that is anonymous. I have and can share with you if you would like some of the things that I took from those reflection sheets last year that I shared with OMH through the grant and the grant reporting we're doing for student programming. Just the honesty and the raw realization that addiction affects our families in Cohoes. And this was something we had kids seeking out the ACCA who was there for information, for treatment, for resources for their families, also talking to Stephen after, just so personally. So I'm super excited that we're able to bring him back for grade 7 through 9. We know through the pandemic, addiction definitely increased in some homes. We know what's going on with that, overdoses, even within our own community. He himself, I follow him now on all of his social media. He just celebrated 12 years of sobriety on September 30th with a big party with his wife and his 2 children and his parents. He shares his story of becoming addicted in high school. And how it ruined his sports career, his athletic career, being arrested. So it's a powerful story. He really just speaks from the heart. It's not a fancy, I have all these slides or presentation. And the kids we had every high school kid in the auditorium. Their behavior was perfect. They were listening, they were engaged. So again, super excited we're bringing him back in November 6th. Student voices, you heard again from a few students who were chosen to be a part of that. We have 4 students attending this year. They start the end of this month. We also have an intern, Emily Dundon, who's here at the middle school, who's in a very specific DEI cohort in her SPL program. So she and I are going to meet actively with these students and really get student voice. We're looking at the potential of some student roundtables. She's also attended some equity officers meetings with me at BOCES and really looking to how we can expand that student voice and hearing directly from our students what is needed and how we can put that into practice with them. So we're excited that kicks off, I think, October 25th, and then we will meet with them subsequently after their first conversation where they meet with all of the Capital District schools that are engaged in that. One of the things I'm most excited about and most proud of is our relationship with Building Blocks this year. You all approved the memorandum of agreement at the end of August. I happened to be in the right place at the right time last spring. So Building Blocks is a health homes care management agency. If you've ever heard of health homes and you can have a health homes care manager, we have them strategically in our schools every day this school year. It is free for our district. It is free for our parents. The only requirement is they have to have Medicaid. Building Blocks does everything. They are a resource for our families, from transportation, housing, clothing, food, right up through your child is suffering with mental health, social, emotional needs, behavioral health. Let's help you get in somewhere. Let's get you a referral. Let's get you on a list. They will call every day. Do you have any cancellations? Can you get them in sooner? Then also our students who have significant disabilities and maybe in a self-contained type program. We have some families who do not understand what they are entitled to through OPWDD services, through respite, through SSI. They will help the families and hold their hand as they walk through those systems. And that is a lot of work. The paperwork, you have to be on top of SSI. Traditionally, people do get denied the first time. You have to know to reapply, but the services that these families are entitled to that they aren't getting because they just don't know how to navigate the system, they hold their hand through it all. We are so full already. They are looking to hire a second care manager for us. It's a great resource for our families. They really are able to engage our families. They're in the home, they're in the school, they see the kiddos, they can be an extra set of hands if they know that kiddo and what's happening with them and their needs. I am just so excited for that. And I'm hoping this relationship will continue. Again, I was in the right place at the right time at a meeting where care management was being discussed and heard that they were in the Albany City School District. And you were like, wait, what about my district? And they were like, well, actually, we're looking to expand it to a smaller district. I might be perfect for you. And within a week, Brittany Moore, our parent liaison, and I sat down with Alexa, who is their manager, and then they hired a wonderful care manager, Megan, who does have an office here at the middle school. Kyle had a space within the nurse's office that he was able to give them for a permanent space. But then they spend time in each of the buildings. They're willing to go to IST meetings, parent meetings, principals cabinets, anything like that. They want to make sure there's always two-way communication. There's releases signed. So we are just information sharing and supporting our families at an even deeper level than we could do, by ourselves. So that's been absolutely amazing. Again, we're almost full and getting another care manager. The new resource guide went out. It is now up on our website. 8 additional pages were added based on feedback from our families. One of the things I did when it went out on ParentSquare was make sure we had a Google link for a Google form so parents could respond. Was it useful? What else did you want to see? So based on that feedback, we added in some information on translation services, different transportation, CETA links, Medicab, DSS information, EBT, food stamps, all of that for our families that wanted some more robust county resources as well. So take a look at that. It is longer. It went to print. It's beautiful. It was here in time for open houses. I went to all of the open houses to give it out to parents. We also have the QR code, and I did update the Google site that I manage and update each time new resources put in.
And was that sent to the entire district? ParentSquare?
I believe Mary Beth did send it out. We send it out at least 3 times a year. Again, that Google link will be attached again so parents can give us feedback with the update that will happen each year of the grant. And again, at open houses, we had Trinity, the Mobile Resource Center came out again. I invited them. Equinox was here. We had BOE from the county here. So we had lots of different resources for our families. Building Blocks was at one of them as well, and had, I want to say, at least 15 families sign up just at the open houses, came up, personally spoke to them about what they could offer. So that was fantastic. TCIS, which we started talking about, is Cornell University. So after I got my training in March, which was on point with our plan to implement TCIS, I happened to have to go to a meeting in Elmira for a program we're working on, and I stopped at Cornell on the way back and made sure we had the appropriate attire for when we're training. Because what we saw when we went was that they are decked out in their Cornell gear every day of the 5-day training that we attended to become trainers. It is a fantastic program. I first attended it at Niskayuna last August to make sure it was something I wanted to bring here to Cohoes before we had used CPI, which to me was more of a quick program that didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of really how to best support kids. TCIS is through Cornell, research and evidence-based. Ironically, when I was trained last August, before I went to become a trainer, the 2nd edition had come out. What they added to that was a lot of trauma-based information that really makes it real for what students are experiencing that are within our classes and what that might look like when they are experiencing trauma at home and coming in. The use of the video clips that really makes it a powerful presentation, not just necessarily sit and lecture. A lot of opportunities for teachers to then practice the skills that we teach throughout each of the activities. The binder's super thick. It does take us 4 days to get through the program, but I also feel like we're on par with all the other districts because BOCES uses it, DCYFS uses it. Like, it's just what everybody around us is using, and we were one of the only ones outside of like New York City and Long Island that were using CPI. And I know the New York City School District themselves, they also use TCIS. So it's more training. What can be bad about that? It's more PV. I don't think that's ever a bad thing. That's the only real difference. Long term, once it's out of my grant, it still is a cost savings for the district. It's about half the price to get a trainer trained than it was for CPI. BOCES offers it locally, so our third trainer, Sherry Free, attended that in August here at Capital Region BOCES and was able to get her certification with no need to travel. Keith and I and Sherry will be able to do our updates at BOCES every year. We will no longer have to travel, so that cost will be gone. It's through BOCES, so everything will and should be able.
If we could just mention too, the goal is to expand our turnkey trainers to have a trainer for each building, moving through that. And you are also looking at a plan to have maybe not the full 4 days for
Oh,
everyone.
yeah.
But
Absolutely. So far, as of today, we finished our training, we have 40 teachers and our staff members. That's a mixture of TAs, aides, teachers, and security, who have been fully trained in the 4-day program. What TCIS does that's different than CPI is you can teach certain modules in isolation. So we can use it at faculty meetings and just do a 45-minute activity. We can use it at superintendent conference days. We can do it with new professionals. So we can teach certain areas of the program without having to do the full 4 days. They also allow for people to do the first 2.5, but you don't have to get certified in the physical portion of it if it's something that in your position or in your role you are not ever going to need to use, but they can get the really good information about the crisis co-regulation, mental health first aid, and all of those other skills that are in the program. And lastly, Northern Rivers, we continue to have that amazing relationship. She's up to 4 full days a week here, which is pretty much the most we can have her with how our contract is, where we are not paying Northern Rivers directly for the clinician. She currently has, as of September, about 44 students on her caseload with a wait list of about 10 to 15 students. Feedback I am getting from families is that she is absolutely fantastic. Students love meeting with her. She's been very engaging. I know she reaches out to our social work team regularly, updates who's on the caseload, again, releases her signed information that's able to be shared. So we continue to meet those mental health needs by using her strategically as much as we can. Middle school and high school have the majority of the kiddos who are seen by her, taking up about 30 of the slots, and then the rest of the elementary schools have, you know, there's like 8 at 1 and 3 at each of the other 2 schools currently, but it also changes just about monthly, and she gives an update because as families either don't attend or are finished with treatment, then we're quickly moving kiddos off the wait list. And I regularly meet with Katri at Northern Rivers, who oversees our program here, to talk about that and how we can continue to move kids quicker off that wait list, because we know it's important for them to get in quickly. We have created fabulous relationships with some online partners, Apti Health, Charlie Health. We've had them come in, meet with our social work team, so we can get kids quickly into some virtual sessions should we need to. And there's another one we'll be talking about on Friday at our social work meeting, and seeing if there's a collaboration we want to do there as well.
Wow.
We're busy, but we're good.
We're very fortunate to have such an amazing resource who's so dedicated to our students. Thank you.
And Rachel, I really appreciate, like, we were just talking about discipline and behaviors and being reactionary. Like, this feels very proactive, and it feels very much needed, and building, you know, those supports where they need to be to kind of make sure some of those things don't happen later. I just,
Oh, yeah.
I like the approach. I think it's great. I'm so glad that you've been able to build those relationships. We love to hear grant funded. We love to.
I know.
That is BOCES able, so we can get a return on our investment.
We are working on getting everybody contracted through Capital
Like
BOCES, so even after
programs.
the grant ends, then things will be reimbursable. through that, so we can keep them going. That is important, absolutely. And no, in the building blocks, quite honestly, they are really starting at that early age. Brittany is very instrumental. Before we even had our agreement signed and had them on board officially with our district, I think she had 6 families signed up, like in June, once we knew like it was coming. And they are those pre-K and K families, and we know the earlier we can get intervention in place, it's just so critical for these kids and families.
Now, I understand the framework of the agreements that you were mentioning with Northern members. It is hard and difficult to hear that there are people on the waiting list that need services or need support. Have we explored anything that might be able to, like, I don't know what the parameters of the agreement are with just working with them or in isolation, or if there are other opportunities for those kiddos who are in a waiting list, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we continue to expand our resource guide and have those, you know, it's not agreements we have with Abdi or Charlie, it's just we know of them and our social work teams know we can refer to them instantly, and there you are seen within a week virtually, you're assessed and get in. So sometimes we encourage parents to enroll in both, and wherever you can get in quicker. And or maybe they really like virtual, and that is great. And some of our youth, that is what they really like in today's world. I know it wouldn't personally be for me, but it has to be an option for those families who might want that. We also work.
So if I could just address that too. So pre-COVID, you might recall we had, we were moving towards also a paid model. We, you know, because of the need and the numbers, and there was a waiting list. Then the numbers decreased and our numbers were able to be, our students were able to be assisted through this. So if there is, and if that's a solid like waiting list where they will not be entering others, then we can go back and we can explore some of the other models. There's add-on paid models in addition to this 4-day model. And you might recall those discussions before. So that's definitely something we.
Oh, absolutely. We can explore. And Katria is fantastic to work with through Northern Rivers. So those are definitely conversations I can have with her. What would it look like? What would we need to do to get that 5th full day? She was only 3 days when she started. We increased her last year to the 4th full day. Based on the need.
Right, they decreased
that waiting
numbers, and so now that the need.
And I'm also working collaboratively with the county. I've been able to participate in their mental health champions, is what they're calling it, where they're basically bringing together either superintendents or people in a similar role to mine to kind of discuss how can the county better help. So I'm hopeful at maybe some point, because they are hearing from us about the distinct needs we all have in our district, that maybe there will be something with Albany County Mental Health potentially expanding out. So I keep my fingers crossed that maybe someday that can come to fruition, because they are very aware that it takes our families like 3 buses to get there. While they're a great resource and they typically don't have too long of a waiting list, it's 3 CDTA buses with a mom who might have to bring 2 other kids and a stroller, and it might be raining and it might just not be a great situation, where we want them to really be able to access quick, easy services.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one more
Oh,
question?
That's what.
So many of the sports you mentioned, I just wanted to clarify the opportunities are available for district-wide. These are K-12 opportunities, not just isolated because, say, someone is housed in the middle school. I know that you said she went to other, anything other than that would be elementary specific. I know you were talking about the speaker coming in.
Oh, yeah, as far as programming, so we have our Aaron's Law programming through crime victims, St. Peter's crime victims, that'll be coming in March. We're also exploring through them. They offer other bullying, cyberbullying type programs. So we are looking into those. I mean, obviously they just had Fire Safety Week. They have a lot of different things like that that go on. But yes, we are definitely looking to potentially expand where we can get some additional free resources in as well. I'm aware of a trooper through Troop G who does some work too in the schools. That's part of their position. So we're exploring what might be able to happen there as well.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Rachel meets with all the social workers throughout the district, and so the social workers are all very well versed in all the different programs. And Northern Rivers is available for elementary as well. A larger majority of our middle and
At least
high
14
school students. But these are, and they're anytime there's a new resource, I know there's a meeting to share. So
I mean, the reason I bring it up is we did have a situation where it was very reactionary and it
Mhm.
was,
Absolutely.
so building things like this, having proactive exposure for our kids, because we're seeing digital footprints earlier and earlier, we're seeing behaviors earlier and earlier. And, us trying to support by the positives moving forward, really needs to start at the youngest age that we're able to.
Absolutely, 100%. The same.
Not say 5-year-old,
within
it's
the-
all about internet
Yeah.
safety, but
Yeah.
well, maybe they do, I don't know.
They do.
But
No, they
They absolutely
they
do.
don't have Facebook accounts, I don't know, but.
No,
Let them
and
do.
really, I've been a part of that discussion around social media, the lack of play-based childhood. I read The Anxious Generation. I think one of our buildings is also reading that. It's very imperative because kids aren't getting outside to play and do the things we used to do, and come home when the street light comes on and drink out of the hose all day. Like, that's just not childhood anymore. It is very much behind a screen. And there is concern, and I know people are going after Facebook, and these different social media apps, because kids can just click a button that, yes, I am a certain age, and they're on. And they're seeing things and, being on things where they just have no place being. They're just not emotionally mature enough and ready. So we do need to hit them young. And I'm definitely exploring the programs that they offer as well regarding that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn it to Stacy and then come back to the committees. But I also really want to publicly thank Dr. DeTerzi for helping us in terms of having an immunization clinic for our students here at the middle school. Some of our high school students came down as well. Our elementary students were set, but that really helped our students not to be excluded from school. So I want to, publicly thank Dr. DeTerzi. I also want to mention that through the multi-tiered system and supports framework, Rachel's, the things Rachel is doing, the things buildings and social workers are doing, it's part of really a comprehensive effort. Rachel comes to elementary principal meetings. Rachel comes to secondary principal meetings. She shares information out. There's information shared in as to what the needs are. If it's something that we should talk about at admin council, which is with everyone K-12, those discussions are happening there too. So some strategic decisions made district-wide, building-wide, and then again, Rachel's relentless outreach to get people to agree to do things and in the most cost-effective manner as possible. So thank you.
Free is my favorite.
Stacy, do you have a few things?
Yeah,
I think free is Stacy's favorite too.
free is my favorite. On tonight's agenda, we have a recommendation for the Director of Facilities 3. I'm very excited about. So we're going to welcome William Darcy to the team on October 28th. So that's very good news. Also, the senior account clerk typist position, that'll be on the next agenda, but we have somebody that has accepted that position as well. Her start date will be 10/28 as well. It'll be on the next agenda. Audit is still pending, so it's still going to be late. I do expect to have the audit committee meeting though on 11/6, like we had talked about, and I'll update you the next time we meet. I'll have more definitive information on that.
So talks continue with civil service about New York Health, and I shared information with you regarding that. That should be on their October 24th meeting, so that'll be good for us. I do also want to mention there is a sixth grade teacher recommended on the agenda, which means that Jen Heaney will be able to start in her role as a career education coordinator on October 21st. So great plans in that area. So a little bit of a further discussion on committees. I thought it was very appropriate that the Wellness Committee be chaired this year by Rachel Marson. So those of you who are on the Wellness Committee, you'll see a new chair. We have been reaching out to committee members. As you know, last year was the first year that we included parents on board level committees. And we had different levels of success with differing committees. So the first thing is I'm reaching out to all of the parents to get their feedback from last year, to talk to them about ways they would envision becoming more involved, and I'll share that feedback. I would like to propose that we have parents who are on the committee, if they're interested, remain this year. So they're at least, I know that we want to change it up in the future, but so that there's at least either two, or we can have a discussion further, 2 to 3 years. You know, because once you really start to work through the committee and you have more information about what everything is about. So I'm looking for some of your feedback as committee members, and you can have some time to think about it, or there can be some sharing tonight, but I know that some of the committees, there was a lot of input. I feel that the committees where there's building level committees or building level groups as well, there's a lot of, you know, more back and forth. I do know that in our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, you know, we've maybe had not as smooth of a road getting started. I think with our technology committee, and sometimes I know there's a lot of sharing of information, and the sharing of information is good, but I would like to set the committees up so there's more collaborative discourse throughout the committee meetings. So, I mean, you know, that is my takeaway, working on, you know, really the right ways to do that, and just looking for your input as, you know, board level members.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to get my words in the right place. I think it's really important, especially on a committee like a DEI committee, to provide maybe agenda topics prior to, so those parents and even building level representation can go back and not survey, but talk to their peers, talk to everyone, and then bring back those pieces for discussion. I think it's also super important for parents to be on 2 to 3 years, because you get your feet wet, you've learned about the programs that we hear about regularly. They're hearing about what's out there. Now year 2, now let's take some of that and get to some real meat and potatoes of how we can really foster change in our buildings.
Other feedback on that?
I think the structure of the committees, what the charge is, what the intent of the committee is. If the intent of the committee is to strictly be informational, you know, then I feel like those conversations need to happen. What is the charge of this committee? What is the expectation from September through, you know, if we are only going to go from school year, you know, September through June, and what does it look like to have, you know, show progress, or to show, you know, us getting to a point where we're taking steps and making change, affecting change within our buildings, because I think the purposes of these committees is to look at what we have in place, you know, have some people in the room who are familiar or have at least some passion about the topic, and to contribute and to, you know, put things in place. So I feel like just the structure, I think, needs to be defined more, and what the expectation of each of the committees is, you know, is the technology committee just to, and I'm just not putting anybody on the spot here. I'm just using the technology committee, right? Like, is the intent to just say, this is what we have to offer, you know, our students, but then are we having a conversation about what's missing, and, or, you know, what else is out there that might be a better resource, or, you know, I haven't been on that committee in a while, which is why I use that as an example, just because I don't have knowledge of what's actually happening on that committee, but I feel like some of the members don't necessarily understand. I don't understand sometimes what the charge of the committee is, or what the intent is, or what I'm expected to do as a member of the committee, you know?
So I'd like to just address the technology. I know you just put that one out there. No, but
went on it a little bit.
So don't worry, PJ. You don't. So for example, some of our committees have clearly defined plans that really the charge of the committee is to, give input, pull ideas, et cetera. So for example, the technology committee, the technology plan. But that's something that we need to make a stronger linkage with, because I think in that case too, it became reporting where we are. Instead, it's going forward. Here's our technology plan currently. Our new one is due end of this year, end of next. So what are those areas in our current plan that really need to be strengthened and, get input on different areas, bring back feedback from different people, and maybe explore some other ideas. I think there are charges on a piece of paper for each of the plans, but it's really making them be revising some of the charges. And I do think both with wellness and DEI, those are the committees that I think we need to fine tune even more.
So just my observation about both of those committees, I feel like they would be well served by having a policy to guide the work. And I know that I sat on DEI last year, and we spent a lot of time kind of talking about what we needed, but not so much how to get there. So now that we have that first year, and further to what Renee said about continuity of membership, this year would be the identification, or hopefully, of goals, and and moving toward that way. And hopefully, but in subsequent years, we just go back and sort of that model, but fine tune it and move on to the things that we now need to tackle. But I mean, I like what Margaret is saying about remembering the charge of the committee. I mean, maybe we start in each meeting with just a reminder and include that information on the agenda items when we send it out prior to. And if people could just bring to those meetings, I think it would make the time spent together more effective. That was the committee that I sat on.
So our wellness committee we do have a wellness policy, should be reviewed and revised frequently. Many districts have a DEI policy. We currently don't, so that could also be brought forward.
I think it's also, now that we have parent participation and we want to encourage that to keep happening, I think it's important for us to make sure we say the words and we tell people, what is your role as a parent on this committee? And, it's not to actually put some of these things into place,
Right.
because that would be your job or the building's job, I just think like making sure that everybody knows why we're here. And then, having a tool in place to reflect back at the work that we're doing and how we're progressing to show if we've achieved anything.
Well, thank you. One last thing, I just, in going with student voice, there were some students at the middle school. As you know, we have some STEM club openings, advanced robotics, and one at the high school. We've been talking about looking at STEM clubs. We have some students at the middle school who brought forward an idea combining STEM with some social emotional learning type activities. So our practice with clubs that are not introduced by the district are to have the students fill out a form, have the students come present, have a volunteer advisor for the year. So that is our plan for the next board meeting as well.
Thank you. Look forward to having the kids.
That's it.
Anybody have any questions about the superintendent report? All right. Any Board of Education discussion agenda items tonight? Community discussion of agenda items? No? with business. With that, can I please have a motion that the Board of Education adopts the following resolutions of the October 9th, 2024 agenda, items 6A through F and 7A through L? Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Mrs. Geller,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Paradis.
Yes.
Mr. Gerose.
Yes.
Mrs. Carey.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations to our new Director of Facilities and his supervisor. Any comments from the board about anything that's not on the agenda tonight?
Just want to say what a great job they did on homecoming, like phenomenal.
Here.
Phenomenal for the district, the community, the kids, everyone. It was an awesome weekend. Serious weekend, right? Yesterday.
Yeah.
We called it.
Thank you very
Great
much.
to see so many kids participating and being happy to be there and wanting to be.
Mhm.
In the facility that they've deserved for a long, long, long time.
That's incredible.
All right. Anything else? No? Questions, statements, comments from the audience on non-agenda items tonight? We're just happy that you're here with us. We had a second reading of the non-discrimination and equal opportunity policy. It was just the addition of the website,
Some required.
ADA language, right, that we were required by law to add. So sorry, just stumbled right over that. Dates for future meetings, October 23rd and November 6th, here in the Cohoes Middle School Library at 6 PM. And there will not be a need for executive session this evening, so may I please have a motion to adjourn at 6:56?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Anyone second?
Let me second that.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Geller,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
Mrs. Paradis.
Yes.
Mr. Gerose.
Yes.
And Mrs. Carey.
Yes, thank you all very much. And that will be.